Oh, I just love making these videos because it's such great and exciting news to hear that the automotive industry has finally heard the public's cries and we're finally getting something taken care of. It was a little while ago, Mercedes had announced that they are the first German automaker who is switching to the NACS connector for here in North America. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. Let's just cue the intro and begin. So aside from Volvo and Polestar, everybody that's been in the process of switching to the NACS connector has basically been an American automaker. Starting off with Ford, then we had GM, then we had Rivian. Volvo and Polestar were the only outliers at the time because they're actually Swedish brands, so they're still from Europe, but even they agree that NACS is clearly a better charging standard. But now that we finally got some of the most stubborn people on the planet, I'm referring to the Germans, they are even agreeing NACS is the best standard because Mercedes has recently announced that they are also switching to the NACS connector for here in North America. Now, obviously in Europe, everyone's still going to use CCS2 because that's what the EU has mandated. I'm sorry, guys, unless you guys actually have three-phase AC power, which does take advantage of CCS2. It just brings me so much joy to hear that CCS Type 1, the connector that we've never should have been using from the very beginning, that connector is dying. I am so glad to see that. And now that we've even gotten a taste from the Germans that, yeah, they don't like CCS Type 1 either, I guess that's really putting a lot of pressure on Volkswagen and BMW, those automotive groups. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to think about actually switching to NACS next, and the reason for that is because when it comes to direct competition in terms of each other, it's always BMW versus Mercedes. They have the biggest rivalry between each other because they're both German automakers that make luxury vehicles. And I gotta admit, I actually like what Mercedes is doing in terms of making their electric vehicles. They seem to be doing something right other than their dealerships marking their vehicles up $50,000. Yeah, that aspect is not right. But in terms of actually building the vehicles, Mercedes evidently has it because everyone's loving their Mercedes electric vehicles. And BMW is not new to the electric vehicle game either. They've had the i3 and the i8, some of the weirdest EVs we've seen, but hey, they were quirky and weird and it was BMW's start, but now they're actually making very, very desirable electric vehicles that I just wish would have better styling than what they're giving it. Oh my god, that iX is just hideous. But when it comes to the biggest competing electric German automakers out there, well, I mean, some would argue that Audi is also a big competitor in this, but for the most part, it's always Mercedes versus BMW. So now that Mercedes is using the NACS connector, I have a feeling that BMW is now really strongly considering that they might want to switch to NACS themselves, because if you didn't know this, having CCS on your vehicle really ruins it, because the CCS infrastructure here sucks, and in general it is a less user-friendly handle and charge port design to actually operate compared to NACS. Yeah, it's not something that you want to be associated with when you sell high-end, in some cases six-figure priced vehicles. Lucid. So I would expect that BMW is probably in the process of considering getting on the NACS bandwagon along with the rest of Volkswagen Group as well, because Volkswagen Group owns Electrify America, and I'm surprised that they did it, but they announced that they're also going to start offering NACS options as well. I hope they also start considering buying better hardware than what they have been buying, because oh my goodness, the Signet units. I can't believe that the Signet Surge is still going on to this day. And then the BTC units, they are still also delivering way too much power to so many vehicles. Like it's nuts. It keeps breaking them just like that. So yeah, I hope they consider the new hardware alternatives. Like we've got Kempower coming, we've got Alpitronic also coming. Tritium's bringing their actual big boy units instead of being stuck with their 50 kilowatt dinky little chargers. So yeah, I hope Electrify America starts exploring that route in terms of the charging industry. But yeah, considering Volkswagen owns Electrify America and they've also said that they are going to start offering NACS options, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche also end up switching to NACS at some point. Especially if Audi and Porsche really want to compete with Mercedes on this, because now Mercedes has instantly gained a lot more value because NACS evidently is the much more valuable connector. We've seen this time and time again. Back when Tesla was the only vehicle with a NACS charging option because it was proprietary to them at the time, it just clearly showed that everyone valued the NACS connector over the CCS connector, because despite that, yeah, we got a lot more options available. Problem was everyone continued to go back to Tesla because that charging port design was linked to a terrible network, and also not that many people enjoyed using CCS Type 1 because it was a general worse connector than NACS, which is proprietary to Tesla's at the time. And that's why Tesla is still outselling the competition. You can add all the brands that are not Tesla up together that are producing electric vehicles. Tesla is still selling way more vehicles than their competition combined. And it's because people value that NACS connector, evidently. They value the supercharger network. So now that Mercedes has switched to NACS, it does mean that they're going to gain a lot more value because, I mean, that's been the case with basically every other brand. Everyone who switched to NACS has basically had a stock increase, including Tesla, because, well, Tesla has currently the only charging network with NACS aside from, well, EVgo's CHAdeMO adapter solution. But yeah, basically anyone who's been adopting NACS is only seeing positive feedback. And so, yeah, I hope the rest of the German competition does it, as well as I hope the Japanese and the Koreans get on board with this at some point, because we still have yet to see the Japanese competition as well as the Koreans get on board with this. I mean, Hyundai has stated that they are still talking about actually switching to NACS, which I hope they decide yes, because to me, it's the obvious answer. Yes, we should switch to it. But the reason they've been hesitant is what I've discussed in my last video and talking about how basically anyone who produces a vehicle that is on the 800 volt class in terms of EV architecture, yeah, I can understand why they're still hesitant to do it at this point, though they still shouldn't have any worry about this. Though the Japanese competition actually needs to get to work on their EVs, because take a look at Toyota's first offering. I can't believe it is as bad as it is. Seriously, Toyota should be embarrassed for producing such a car. Same with Subaru. Yeah, the Solterra, not good. It's got a lot of the same issues that the BZ4X has, because, oh wait, aren't they basically the same car with different badging and styling? I still don't understand why Nissan hasn't switched the Leaf away from CHAdeMO, because CHAdeMO's basically been a dead standard to us for quite a while at this point. Where's Nissan on the 8-ball of that? I mean, they came out with the Aria as of recent, but it's also still using the incorrect charge port, and again, it's having a lot of the same issues that the rest of the Japanese competition has to offer. Like, seriously, there's a charging limit in terms of how long you can actually rapid charge these batteries, and even when you do max out the charge rate at the DC stations, 130 kilowatts? Are you serious? That's pathetic. And the charging curve is also just not exactly the best. Like, I would not want to road trip any Japanese vehicle at this point, because they clearly do not have any idea on what it takes to road trip an electric vehicle here in the United States. So they need to get to work on that. And then obviously Lucid also needs to pull their heads out of their butts and actually realize, yeah, we should switch to NACS too, because we've designed a car where basically the most desirable feature of it is its quote unquote road tripability. I mean, in theory, it really should be the best road tripability car out there, because it's got that 500-mile range option. It charges at 350 kilowatts. It's incredibly efficient on the highway, using only 112-ish kilowatt-hour battery pack. Yeah, it's pretty darn efficient, but yet their vehicles aren't selling because what port are they using? The wrong one. They're using CCS. So that's why their cars are not desirable, and they are sticking to their guns about continuing to use CCS. Like, they really want to die on that hill. Peter Rawlinson, you might want to change your mind about this, because ever since you released that statement, you've now become so much less desirable. I wouldn't want to buy your car if you're using CCS. I don't think anybody would at this point, considering how much of your competition has decided to switch to it, including your most direct competition, Mercedes. You claim that you're a luxury brand. Luxury is your focus, right? Well, not only have you not been able to match the build quality of Mercedes, because your panel alignment on the outside is not great, as well as you don't put any paint on your vehicles, now Mercedes is offering a much better charge port than you. So that means people can actually road trip Mercedes luxury vehicles without an issue. So yeah, Lucid, what are you doing? You're just tripping over yourselves at this point. So yeah, that's the good news about what's going on in terms of the EV industry at the moment. Mercedes has switched, and yeah, at this point, I just can't help but be excited that people have finally realized that NACS is the standard we should have been using from the beginning. And yeah, I know it took Tesla way too long to change it from proprietary to open source, but I'm glad they did. And ever since they did it, I'm so glad that Ford was the first one to jump on the bandwagon, and everyone else decided to follow suit, because America might finally just start to see an improvement in terms of EV charging. The thing that has basically held everyone back from wanting to buy electric cars. We are finally getting improvements here. Thank you, Tesla, for opening up the standard. Thank you, Aptera, for pushing Tesla to open up the standard. And thank you, Ford, GM, Volvo, Rivian, and now Mercedes to jump on the bandwagon in terms of using the clearly superior charging standard in the EV industry. Things might finally start to let up for EV drivers. All right, thank you for watching. Do me a favor and interact with the stuff below. My name is DeWolf, Random Alpha, signing out.